Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
The year is winding down for the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, and today marks the final time that drivers will have to turn right. It's time to head down under for the Thunder Down Under. We're back on Phillip Island. Hello everyone and welcome along for the HyperX Grand Prix of Phillip Island. Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and coverage of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati, joined alongside, as always, as the one and only Justin Prince, and let's dive straight into our Butt Kicker pre-race show, because today, JP, marks the end of the Road Course Championship, but of course, with double points still left to play, there is plenty to play for in the championship, just not at the very top of the field.
Yes, indeed, there's still plenty to play for in the heart of the mid-pack, especially with the top 10 when it comes to the standings. But as talked about the last time, going left and right around a road course this campaign, and it's surely a challenging one when it comes to this racetrack tonight. Phillip Island last year, plenty of challenges to say the very least. especially to try and sort out passing. The question is going to be, how will this year's race fare out?
Let's grab a look at your next level racing series schedule, and it's been a long ride since the start of March. We've still got a long ways to go though, just under a month before we close things out with the high-speed thriller that will be the Auto Club Speedway. But what a ride it's been, JP, and I mean, we've had some new tracks that have joined the fun, yes. However, it is relatively familiar tracks that close out the year.
Phillip Island has talked about a race. We've seen plenty of action at the closing stage of the last campaign. Kansas, of course, bringing some intriguingness the last time we went to an oval. But of course, you have the Triple Crown finale at Auto Club in December. That's going to bring plenty of headlines to see who closes out the campaign strongly with some of the familiarity he has mentioned to close out the year.
Here's a look at your butt kicker driver standings, and it is all but confirmed that Philip Kraus will win the Drivers' Championship. Of course, we'll wait until next time out to crown him, but today he will be crowned your road course champion, no matter where he finishes. Alexander Van der Sande and Robert Milechka make it 1, 2, and 3 for rookies in the standings. Alexander Van der Sande will be missing, and that fight for second is going to come down all the way to the wire in the checkered flag in Fontana on December the 11th.
Yes, indeed, it's going to be seeing some shakeups as a result of Alexander Van der Sande out in the field tonight. Matt Taylor, keep in mind, also has a chance to make things very intriguing amongst that top two, especially coming off the Speedway Series Championship. He's been very quick and part of the preparation for tonight and been looking very strong on some of the road courses this year.
A lot of these drivers shown as rookies. The reality is they are not rookies at all. New champion going to be crowned in the Drivers' Championship, and in the team standings, it's been private label Team Hype at the top since the start of 2021, and they have well and truly established the gap to Powerslide Adrenaline, although those two, the class of the field. Really, we watch a fight between Synergy Motorsport Silver and then Powerslide Ignition, and then maybe the battle for 7th on back as well. But of course, with 3 drivers in the stables, you can't say much about the consistency and the dominance that we've seen from the private label Team Hype over the course of the last 2 years.
Not a surprise to you, the consistency we've seen when they have the talent level they have, when they have the drivers who have the consistency they have, not just on the ovals, but on the road courses as a whole. It's hard to beat a team, Arjuna, when essentially you have a lock for the top 5 when you have one of their cars in the field.
Especially when you got Phil Kraus, who single-handedly is at the top of 3 different championships, including the butt kicker rookie of the year standings. Other impressive rookies include the likes of Matthias Kraus, who's come on strong through the mid part of 2022 and carries that form forward into the final couple of rounds. Mitchell Riggs, the best of the Ascari Autosports machines. Alex Guillon has worked his way inside of the top 10, and maybe it's notable that Adriano Pinheiro, the rookie that put it on pole in the first 2 of our races, first at Homestead Miami and then of course on the streets of Long Beach, is no longer in the top 10 in the drivers' standings. Let's grab a look at the Gomez Sim Industries series details in what is season 10 of this Lionheart IndyCar series. Still only the 9th year of the Lionheart Racing Series. We campaign the latest American open wheel machine, the Dallara IR18, with a custom fix setup built by RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella. Drivers do have the front and rear anti-roll bars to play with over the course of today's race. Cash and prizes have gone from $7,000 in 2021 to over $10,000 in 2022, and the champion will walk away with the Gomez Sim Industries Formula Pro Elite Rim as well as a next level racing GT track cockpit. One more Triple Crown to come, a new series champion to be crowned, and the same team champions to be coronated. That's a look at your Gomez Sim Industry Series details. And now we'll look at the Moser Racing event details as we get ready for the Thunder Down Under and to crown Phil Kraus as our road course champion. Now, starting from the front row has been a must to enter HyperX victory lane. But it doesn't matter if it's second or first, it will all come down to how you play the strategy out. Second has won 3 times in the 5 previous races. And what a race we had last year, JP. It wasn't the closest, but it was the one with the most lead changes, and that was despite the fact that we did see some tight racing, but all in a line for the vast majority of the race.
It came down to tire strategy, absolutely, Arjuna, when it came to last race, because here at Phillip Island seen Philip Kraus, in one of his first races of the season, mind you, try the different strategy with the tires, try the alternate tires, and try and play defense in the end. But as we've seen, Adam Blocker, with the primary strategy, so to speak, for the race, was able to make the pass within the final 5 laps of that event, coming with the checkered flag. The question mark is going to be, will anybody try that strategy this season and make it work?
Take a look at a track map to talk to you about the various challenges that Phillip Island will present. Now, the majority of the racing here is either V8 supercars racing or motorbike racing, not Indy cars by any stretch of the imagination, but trust us, it will put on a show. You run down the long start straightaway, hook it through Doohan Corner at turn 1, going to be flat to the floor in an Indy car, but the Southern Loop caught many a driver out 12 months ago. Then down through turn 3, named after Casey Stoner, and in towards Miller Corner, a heavy braking zone at turn 4. 5 is a nothing. It's turn 6 though, that Siberia that cambers in and powers up as you then dive in towards 7 and 8, and the roller coaster that's Lukey Heights. Down the hill, you'll see a lot of drivers locking the right front brakes in through turn 10, and then 2 corners to go. One of them very tricky, one of them going to be a little bit more simple. It will all depend on the weather conditions as we get ready to go on the Australian coast.
And keep in mind, a majority of the passes when they came into play last campaign here at Phillip Island, a majority of those came down the Gardner Straight into the Doohan Corner. That's going to be one of the main primary opportunities throughout this entire race today, especially in the early going, because that's where that brave move came into play amongst the strategies in the battle between Blocker and Kraus came in last season. Don't be surprised to see the same again this year.
So there's a look at the coastline and the water here in iRacing. Phil Kraus, maybe not a surprise to see him on provisional pole, but look who is up there in second. Lionel Callisto is only a 1/10 of a second off the pace.
An interesting qualifying session indeed for Lionel Callisto. We haven't seen too much of Callisto towards the point throughout the campaign of the road courses. But one driver to keep an eye on who hasn't set a time yet was quicker than Kraus by about a near 1/10 of a second in practice. John Bedifer, you had plenty of expectations for the 67 tonight.
Yeah, I did think that Bedifer was going to be one to watch, and we'll have to see how qualifying goes. It's Adam Frazier that goes up into second, and qualifying here is going to be important because I think the start of this race is going to be somewhat chaotic, JP.
Seen how chaotic it was last year, absolutely, when it came to this racetrack. Not just to the run through the Doohan Corner up to the Southern Loop, but the run through Stoner Corner to Miller Corner is going to be one of the crazy sections at the start of the race. There was a practice start just moments ago, in fact, and about 5-6 cars piled up into the grass on the outside of the corner. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen a couple times as well. It happened a couple times last year.
Yeah, we did see plenty of drama, and it's not just in this IndyCar series that we've seen some of that drama, JP. We've seen it in the Retro series as well. This is a track that has brought its fair share of chaos across of Lionheart competitions. So half the qualifying session done. It's now Joshua Chin that is at the top of the timing sheets. It's a private label team hype 1 and 2. Robert Malechka sits in third, JP.
Yes, indeed, Malechka the third also been looking strong when it comes to the road courses throughout the campaign, and he has been getting better and better when it comes to some of the practice times around the racetrack. A good portion of these drivers are on circuit, 25 entrants for today, and currently of those 21 are circulated around this racetrack. This is such a tricky course though. And as you mentioned, when it comes to the track position, these drivers need to execute in qualifying. Josh Chin to the top of the board, already the pace picking up a fair bit compared to earlier because the track temperatures, they are cooling down.
It is cooling down indeed, and we'll talk about those conditions in a few moments' time. Let's talk about fuel window, because I think that's one that we're kind of curious about though here, because yes, it was about the tires 12 months ago, but with the fuel window being at about 14 to 16 laps, maybe 17 with a heavy fuel save, JP. 46 lap race, there's a potential that someone could cut a pit stop out entirely.
I think you absolutely have to expect drivers to do that because we've already seen that a fair bit. Twin Room Motegi comes to mind with drivers trying to save a ton of fuel. And when it comes to the strategy, do you want to put yourself in a spot where you have an extra 20, 30, 40 seconds in a pit stall? No. So don't be surprised, absolutely, to see some of the save if you are one of the contenders for this race. If you want to be able to contend, you need to try it. I think make it the 2-stop and figure out from there how you split the tire compounds in terms of the fuel save.
When it comes as well to the fact that we got cooler track conditions, it will mean that now we've got the likelihood that the red tire, the alternate softer compound tire that gives up a little bit faster, will actually hold its grip just a little bit more. So we'll see exactly how this is going to play out. I tell you what, let's jump on board with Phil Kraus and ride around for a lap here at Phillip Island through turn 1. Flat to the floor, downforce assisting him, but it's this southern loop that will catch plenty of driver out. But look how tight to the inside Phil Kraus gets. Matt Taylor up to third, and Kraus running wide. We'll have to hope he has not invalidated his lap time. In towards the newly named Miller corner. So treacherous because it's slightly off camber on the braking zone, but as you power down, now you can think about a corner with a little bit more speed. Siberia cambers in and hooks you in as well as you get onto the power. And Kraus nice and tidily winds out of turn 7. Into turn 8, Malechka, 100th off the pole as it stands right now, but through Lukey Heights all the way to the right-hand side on entry, and so committed down the hill as well. Into first gear, minding the rear tires as you spool them up through turn number 11, and then wind out of the penultimate corner and just sweep through the final corner for a lap here at Phillip Island. What will the time be for Phil Kraus on Phil Island? Well, let's find out. It's a 13.595 to beat. And guess what? 2/10 found for Phil Kraus, but it's not pole because he ran off the track.
He's going to definitely be feeling a bit upset that he had that invalidated lap. That would have set the pole by a wide margin, absolutely. But now this hands the chances over to Josh Chin, essentially, to try and bump up the time. Essentially, the pattern when it comes to these machines on these road courses, you set a try and warm up the tires for about a lap, set a flyer. Then try and go back to the pit lane, warm up the tires, set the flyer on the 4th lap, and the 4th lap is always amongst the quickest because you have the tires up to the peak, but also now with the track conditions getting cooler. So there's a chance Chin extends this gap with Malechka also looking to try and do the same.
Well, and look at the margins through the top 5. We don't have Blocker, and we don't have Van de Sant, but Taylor and Kalisto are here to party. What will it be for Chin? He'll be first across the line of the private label Team Hype teammate. The king of Chins trying to minimize the distance. A slight improvement. It's a 1:13.472 as Phil Kraus is done in qualifying, and that will be it. It's Joshua Chin on top in Go Fast time.
Yeah, Malechka to third and invalidated time. He would have topped Chin's time as well if he had a valid time as well, Arjuna. But it came down to the validated lap times and the second runs for majority of the drivers. A close qualifying session.
A fun qualifying session, and now nerves, I'm sure, abound for plenty. We're ready to go racing for the Thunder Down Under. It's time to run you down through the starting grid for today's HyperX Grand Prix of Phillip Island. And it is the king of Chins that returns to the front of the field for the 6th time. He'll lead us to the green alongside Robert Malechka, a 1/10 of a second off at the end of the day, with Phil Kraus and Matt Taylor sharing row number 2. Lionel Kalisto and Adam Frazier will line up in 5th and 6th positions with a 1/4 of a second splitting the front 3 rows. Connor Harrington and Kite Bommersback 7th and 8th positions. It'll be Jason Brophy and then John Baderfer on the edge of the top 10. Plenty of work for the Alpine Stars GNSIC Racing number 67 to do. Tyler Graff and then Brian Beard miss out on the top 10 starting spot, but Brian Carey and Andrew Kinsella for Power Slide have some work to do on row 7. Alex Guyon, Caleb Bensi 15th and 16th, with Trevor Malone making a debut start in this Lionheart IndyCar Series in 17th. Stefan Lockamp alongside Matthias Kraus, Matt Houston bookend the top 20. Luke Daniels, another debutant in the field, 21st, with Sexton Marquez and Riggs, 24 machines starting. Sexton, the final one with a time on the board. James Branch will line up at the very tail end of the field. It's only one driver in our end-of-line club, so Andrew Marquez will slither his way back when we get ready to go racing here for the 46 laps of the HyperX Grand Prix of Phillip Island. As always, featured onboard cameras to work you through, so as the field gets ready to sprint around on a full pace lap, let's make sure that we do that now. Starting with the driver on the outside of the front row, Robert Malechka rides with Moser Racing, redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with Moser Racing. Visit moserracing.com.
With the butt kicker on board camera tonight, Joshua Chen from the other side of the front row. Sim racing is better with butt kicker. Visit thebuttkicker.com.
And of course, the beauty of sim racing is that we have onboard cameras with every one of the cars, all 25 of your Dallara IR18s, and we have the benefit of multiple camera angles. So, JP, you were talking about weather conditions earlier, but you'll notice that the cloud cover, at least for the time being, has dissipated. 20 degrees in the air, but a blistering 42 degrees on the track in the Australian summer. 15th of November, just past the midway point of the day. Not much wind to really talk of, but really, maybe it's not a surprise that the majority of the field is starting on the black primary compound of tire.
Yes, indeed, these drivers thinking about those track conditions, it looks like right now when it comes to how the conditions are, and maybe thinking back to last year or two with how things worked out with the alternates towards the end. Wouldn't be surprised to see a black, red, black strategy from some of the drivers. The top 6 are on the primary tires, but keep an eye on Connor Harrington. We've seen private label Team Hype last year try things differently. He's the first of those trying things differently in the heart of the pack.
He'll be on those primaries. I think that I haven't talked to any drivers, so this is just my conjecture. I think the best strategy, the one that I would think I would use is primary, alternate, and try and have as short an alternate stint as possible at the end of the race. We'll see if anyone does try to take my approach, as we are going to call it in this one. The only two-time winner at this track, by the way, Adam Blocker, he was at this track for MotoGP racing earlier this year, just a month or so ago. But I think we are guaranteed a new race winner. Sage Karam, Dan Guerin, and Jake Wright, the other 3 drivers who have entered HyperX victory lane. Pre-race, I had said John Baderfor was my prediction. I think I'm going to switch that up, and I think I'm going to go with the inevitable Phil Kraus. What are you feeling, JP, as we get ready to go for the 46 laps?
I was thinking of that pick as well, but to try something different, how about we go with Robert Malechka III getting the job done on a road course?
He's gotten a lot quicker on the road courses, that is for sure. What can he do, though, with private label Team Hype around? Sole power slide driver at the front of the field. We're ready for the Thunder Down Under. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the HyperX Grand Prix of Phillip Island. It's a great start from the private label Team Hype. Phil Kraus immediately down the inside of Robert Malechka. 1 and 2 they run, single file for the top 4, but side by side behind them, Connor Harrington on the alternate compound tire, trying to go on the offense the long way around, but he's got a roadblock in front of him, but it's a tidy start to get us underway.
Lada Callisto, a very poor start, nearly got rear-ended by Harrington, it looked like. This is now the trouble spot, and this is more trouble for practice.
And the inevitable maybe happens. Baderfor mixed up in that one, unfortunately. Callisto as well. We saw his blue machine. Brophy and Kinsella dueling up side by side in through Siberia. It happened behind your race leaders, and we'll grab a look at it in a handful of moments' time. But in through Lukey Heights they will go. Single fall for now, but surely gap starting to build. Tire compounds and strategies starting to play out as well. And you see the ominous cloud cover lurking above. It is a gloomy day in Phillip Island, but maybe ideal racing conditions. It will be Josh Chin that converts from pole to the lead at the end of lap 1. Phil Kraus behind him, Malechka, Taylor, Frazier, and Bombers back. The rest of the top 6.
We'll say this when it comes to that start. Harrington very lucky to have a front wing still. He had plenty of scrapes from near contact in through that first end. Already the pack significantly broken up as a result of some of the craziness and some of the battling. There goes Brophy starting to make some cuts. Kinsella is up 5 spots on the primary tire.
Caleb Bensi is on the alternate and wants to work his way forward as well in towards the Miller corner. They will go. You can see that's a primary passing opportunity, it would seem. Kinsella should be able to fend off Bensi for now, but cambered in through Siberia. Bensi with the confidence to make it stick and to slide his way forward past the Canadian. Is Josh Ching going to be able to break away? Not many drivers electing to use push to pass, at least within the opening couple of drivers at the front of the field. Let's go ahead and pick up what happened here. And it's Betafer that I think makes the mistake and actually runs into the back of Lionel Callisto. So the Alpine Stars geodesic racing driver may be the trigger of chaos.
Yeah, this was something that happened in practice. I thought Harrington was about to be the trigger with that setup. The inside instead, Betafer just looked like wasn't expecting the checkup. Slams the back into the car in front of him. And that in turn has seen him have to take a major tow already. About nearly a full track behind the rest of the pack. Callisto is still getting repairs done.
Yeah, that was a pretty significant impact. Let's not mince around. Chin, fastest lap of the race for the time being as we jump on board with the 91 of Robert Malechka. Like you were kind of alluding to, JP, this is a man that we saw dominant in the Lionheart Speedway Series to the point where he missed, the first 6 races in 2021 and still somehow was a title contender. But you know, as part of this Powerslide Motorsports team, he's found some speed on the road courses as well, and he's right on the back of Phil Kraus, and I'm not shocked that he got swarmed on the race start, if I'm being totally honest. However, from now, it's about how we'll fight from here.
I mean, teamwork sometimes is very beneficial on the starts. In the case of the private label team Hype, they had that advantage, so to speak, to be able to get the jump. But the main thing's going to be with Malechka third. How much does he try to save? How much does the aero wash impact things? He's able to push the passes being used about 6th, 7th on back. Fraser must try to keep up with the pack as well as Bomber's back.
Yeah, Bomber's back now on the alternate compound of tires, tucked up behind a car in the primaries. I think that's one of the major storylines that we kind of want to talk about. Not really a major breakaway in terms of the front couple. It is a 7-car choo-choo train for the time being, and then Caleb Bensi, who is on the alternates, is making up some time and trying to latch on to the back of them. Will the Ascari Autosport machine jink to the inside? Bit of a puff of smoke in front, but does not seem like anyone is having too much drama. Now, if I'm Connor Harrington, this is a good situation. You get past Matt Taylor, you're on the back of Robert Malechka, and I think maybe the wisest thing for him to do, JP, would be to ride until the end of the stint and make these alternate compound tires last like they were primaries.
I think that's going to be one of the major plays. Remember, we talked a lot about strategy, especially when it came to the alternate twos at the end of the last race here at this racetrack. That might be the thought process to try and make sure you limit the amount of time on them because of the amount of potential fall off. It looks like Harrington, though, is still getting quicker grip on the exits. It's just a matter of setting up the pass. Here he goes. He'll
try it to turn 1, and this is a bold place to try and fight side by side, and I think Matt Taylor realizes car on a different strategy, let's not fight too much, and Connor Harrington is a quick driver on the road courses. They'll funnel into line, and let's see exactly how it will cycle its way through. Again, remember, track conditions relatively cool. Not sure if this was to be expected. Just take a look at the track map. Your leader's already going to come onto the back of John Betafer, who was awarded a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact on that lap 1 incident. Now, only one bit of traffic is not going to be much for your leaders to contend with, but maybe later on in this race, it is something that Chin, Kraus, and Malechka might have to have in the back of their minds.
Yeah, that's going to be something that definitely pops up, I think, at this point with how things are playing out in the early going here. Most of the drivers, if anything, on the alternate tires, the spots they picked up were the ones from the attrition. So essentially, as we talked about, qualifying position, so very critical in these early stages to be up at the front. If you started up front, you're likely amongst those staying up front. Unless you're Caleb Benzie.
Yeah, Caleb Benzie is very much taking advantage of his alternate compound strategy to the point where he's broken away from Brophy and Kinsella, who still fights by about 1.7 seconds at the line. So a good start to this one as we jump on board with the setup builder Andrew Kinsella, but also of course part of our team here at RaceSpot TV. Coming off the season finale of the Lionheart Speedway Series on Monday, which was an electric race, however, did not go the best for Kinsella's Powerslide colleague Joe Branch in the championship fight. It is Matt Taylor, your 2022 Lionheart Speedway Series champion, Justin.
And even then, it was the question of how would that race fare. Both the championship contenders who made the start, with Branch and Taylor having issues during the first pit stop sequences. Branch in terms of lost time, Taylor in terms of a damaged wing. But it all came down to when the big one struck at Fontana, and Branch had the worst of the luck, it seemed, throughout that night. Think of it this way, if Branch was able to survive the big ones, who knows, he might have been the champion, since remember, Taylor crashed on the final lap and didn't finish the final lap of the race.
Yes, there was some drama on the final lap. I was hoping not to talk about that one. Brian Carey, by the way, on the push to pass, and carries that all the way in towards the southern loop as well, because he is flat out. He had a mistake, I think, through the final sector, and it's closed the gap back to Jason Brophy. Not totally in touching distance, but almost there. Brian Carey starting to struggle with his alternate compound tires. About halfway through the fuel run, remember, estimated at around 14 to 16 laps. 17 if you're saving a lot. And I think the thing we can be guaranteed, Joshua Chin cannot be saving that much in the lead of the race. Connor Harrington has probably not saved that much by virtue of his charge through the field, similarly to Caleb Benzie. Phil Kraus and Robert Malechka, though, have been in the perfect position to just hang back and let the race come to them.
And that's where some of the cases when it comes to road course racing are, right? A lot of drivers like to let the race have its ebbs and flows. Don't try and force it, so to speak. It's not like in an oval where you can go and gain 16 spots in about 10 laps. These types of racetracks, you need to be able to pick your spots. And we've been seeing that a fair bit so far when it comes to some of the front runners. We've seen it with Harrington and the swap around with Matt Taylor already. Looks like we might have to see if there's the case there. Yes, indeed it is. Spot being chosen by Malone.
So Guyon getting in front of the debutant Trevor Malone as they work on to lap 8 of 46 in this one. Seen plenty. Actually, I'm just trying to remember all the races that I've commentated on here at Phillip Island. Most of them have had chaos in one way or another. This has probably been the quietest one that I've ever seen so far. And knock on wood, I hope that continues. I remember in particular an Ivor Endurance Series race, the 4 hours of Phillip Island that we ended up having some 6 safety cars for in that one. Was definitely a memorable race, maybe not for all the right reasons. Top 3 have been caught by Connor Harrington to some degree, but I wonder if we're starting to reach that crossover point, because last time Harrington only punched in a 1:15.382 compared to Chin's 15:138. What will it be this time by? It's a 15:639 for Chin, and it's a 15:760 for Harrington. Are the alternate tires starting to give up the ghost?
Honestly, I think they are a bit, but it's also maybe a bit of a catch-22 with Chin and company. Also slowing down the tempo a little bit with saving, maybe with the fuel mapping. Thinking about that on that regard when it comes to some of the strategy. On board with Frazier. My goodness, Taylor just hit him!
Well, now, you say there was contact, but is there damage to Taylor? Is there damage to Harrington? Or have the racing gods smiled down on them? Because Matt Taylor still has a front wing.
There was definitely contact. I am surprised at how much Taylor missed the braking mark, or Harrington may have backed up the corner there, Arjuna. It looks like Taylor was just absolutely spooked there.
Yeah, let's immediately grab a look at this one, because I am very, very curious. So there's contact, but it's light contact that I think is the saving grace here, and we'll try and grab a look from up above, because this may be the actual best angle that we're going to get, and we may even be able to slow this one down. Well, yes, the fact that we saw the inside of Matt Taylor's wing, I think, tells you all we need to know.
That looked like a difference of at least 20 feet in the braking zone, possibly, too. So it looks like Taylor absolutely getting away with that.
However, you say getting away with that, the gap has been opened up. Harrington now 2 seconds back and out of drafting range. And last time lost 9/10 to your race leader, so he's going to have to try and find some life in those alternates more than halfway through the run. And maybe he's questioning, does he come in a bit early and commit to the two-stop? But you take a look at the track map, and with pit lane actually not being that long here, there's not, I think, too much worries for Harrington in terms of coming out in lap traffic, but I think his worry will be coming out and then in a couple of laps, catching up to lap traffic.
Yeah, if anything, so far, so clean as expected. Drivers trying to go to the edge of the window here.
Push to
Here
pass.
comes Frazier.
Push to pass, it's as easy as pie, and I don't think Harrington can really afford to fight this one too hard, JP, because I do think those alternates now with 10 laps on them are at the better parts of being done.
Yeah, I was saying that before. Well, Matt Taylor happened. The crossover points definitely crossed at this point when it comes to Harrington. I think the better benchmark in terms of the times is Bency, Bombers Back and company. They've fallen off an hour 2 to 3 tenths compared to Harrington already.
Speaking of Bency and Bombers Back, side by side, and the team race for his car slides his way in front. Bency now +9 on the day.
I was about to say, just as I say, when the fall-off comes in, Bency still makes the move. Bency's doing the best out of anybody, I think, on these tires, even with compared to Harrington, just because he didn't qualify well, and he's been able to just push. And he might have a shot to be able to get within Matt Taylor's range, depending on if he's able to overcome some of this fall before the pit stop in a few laps.
Adam Crane has pointed out that there is the likely potential that Connor Harrington may now have to serve 15 seconds of repairs because of a pushed-in rear wing assembly. We'll see if that happens in the pit stop cycle. Here's Jason Brophy, and he went to the outside, and I don't really know what he was thinking about there, if I'm being completely honest, because Brian Carey was always going to leave his car there. I think was trying to let Brophy get on through, and through the southern loop, both cars getting a little bit squirrely. Brophy down the inside will finally get it done.
When there's hole, car goes in gap. That seemed to be a fixation of Brophy saying, oh, there's an opening here. But the problem is, Carey wasn't expecting that down the straightaway. Solid move to give up the space after realizing what was initially happening there. You see the poke around. Carey then realizes, oh, Brophy wants to go here. Not to my inside, but to my outside.
Yeah, I still think he probably wanted to be down the inside of Wig, being completely honest. But no harm, no foul. It's as simple as that. Front of the field, still 3 cars duking it out. Chin from Kraus from Malechka. Chin has led every single lap of this race so far. Last year we had 8 lead changes. This year I get the distinct feeling we won't have as many, and the ones that we get will happen through the strategy once more, likely on pit lane. And one thing about pit lane as well is, JP, you see there's that long access road that sweeps around the outside of turn 1. That's what we used last year. It's not what's in use this year. This year we use the shorter access road that basically spits cars straight out of pit exit, straight onto the racing line.
And drivers absolutely going to have to make sure they have that memorized so they don't lose that additional time potentially in the pit entry. So we'll have to see to make sure which drivers remember that, which drivers forget that throughout this race today. Meanwhile, Carey Amonsto still in this choo-choo train. And the interesting thing's now going to be how drivers like, say, Kinsella go. Tyler Graf's closing up. Brian Beard's also closing in. Things starting to compress with that tire fall off of the alternates.
Left side of the screen, you can check out what tires they've all started on. You can see that the alternates works okay for Connor Harrington, although again the cloud hanging over his head being the potential for 15 seconds of damage repairs. For the first time in a while, Joshua Chin is using a push to pass. And I think maybe this is the indication that it is hammer time for those at the front, and maybe Chin and Kraus are looking to drop Malechka in the 91.
Absolutely has to be the thought if they want to try and make this a team 1-2 and a fair bit easily. It also helps when even your quote-unquote not road course aces like Brophy are getting the job done really well inside the top 8 currently after the move on Bomber's back. You can just see how the grip's falling away though, even from the onboard, and how things are on these corner exits. The 37 just struggling to keep up match-wise.
I'm just saying Jason Brophy cannot complain about the balance of the setup after this one. That is for sure. Great drone shot as they head down into Siberia. Now remember, fuel window was estimated to open this lap, and we had to do a full pace lap at the start of this run before we got underway, so that is always something that burns just a little bit more fuel. But Joshua Chin getting on the push to pass, an indication that he did not have enough to go a little bit longer, since of course that will use a little bit more fuel. Having said that though, powers his way around, no drama. But Connor Harrington, at the first sign of the pit window opening, will dive down to the safety of pit lane.
Gonna have to stretch it by about a lap towards the end of one of these runs. Bensy and Carey also ducking in, and this is going to be the indication. Is there wing damage on the rear end of that assembly of the 44 if he stays in for a fair bit of time here in the box?
Remember, normal pit stops anywhere from 7 to 9. Now he drops with the tires complete and rolls 8.5, and Connor Harrington will have a huge smile on his face. That is without a shadow of a doubt. Bradley Sexton has become our first victim of, I believe, the Southern Loop, but he has managed to go so far wide that it's hard for us to really know.
There is Narnia, and then there is that. Yeah, that's not how you run to that corner, and yeah, that is really not how you enter that corner.
Yeah, that explains a lot. So he was fighting side by side, Bradley Sexton, and now tries the switch around to try and set up the move out of the outer Southern Loop, and overcommits. That one is for sure. Now gaps opening at the front, and while Josh Chin has not dived to pit lane, Phil Kraus and Malechka feel the need to get on the button because the gaps very much are starting to stretch out. Bomber's back the next down on pit lane.
Yeah, Malechka third starting to lose touch, absolutely. Will need to figure things out. They are picking up the tempo by at least 0.3 compared to some of the previous laps amongst that pack. So wouldn't be surprised this being the push-in lap essentially for the top 2.
Bit of a puff of smoke from the right front for the King of Chins as he works through Miller Corner. I keep having to look at my track map before I call it, because 12 months ago that was Honda Corner. Now it is no longer a Honda Corner. This is though my favorite section of the track, up through Lukey Heights, and as committed as you can get from Josh Chin, picking up a bit of grass on the right front tire as he threw the car leftwards. Kraus has been able to close the margin. Malechka less successfully. He's 1.2 off the back of Kraus. They dive to the left. It would not appear so within the top 2. Malechka will try the undercut and try something different.
Still looking solid on the fuel marks, but that's definitely a good sign on the heavy fuel. We mentioned Chin slowing the tempo down a bit. It looks like indeed that was the case with Chin. Able to slow down the tempo with some of the fuel maps with a few tenths he saved here and there on some of the race laps.
Maybe shouldn't be such a shock to me that Joshua Chin, known for being a prodigious fuel saver, has been able to go a couple of laps longer than the rest of the field, although it is not just Chin and Kraus. Taylor Kinsella, Graf, Kraus, Malone have all been able to extend a little bit longer. Malechka will come out alongside with Bradley Sexton. Maybe not ideal, but Malechka has stayed on the primary compound of tire. I think he's thinking what I was thinking, JP. It's primary, alternate. The strategy has not worked out for Connor Harrington, though. He's 5.5 seconds off the back of the 91.
Yeah, the 2-lap difference just not playing out of the primary tire, it seems, right now for Connor Harrington after starting the alternate. Going to be a bit more of a slope, I think, from Malechka third, because we mentioned Trevor Malone staying out. He ran wide, and that held up the red 91 for a minute. As there goes the pit stops for the top 2.
Teammates will work to pit lane together. And now, Phil Kraus actually getting in front of Joshua Chin. Is Josh Chin out of fuel? Josh Chin is out of fuel. Josh Chin has flown too close to the sun and the wings have been burned. Your race leader, dominant through 17.9 laps. But it's that 0.1 that makes all the difference. It will be Josh Chin that will drop out of the lead of the race and drop from second. Phil Kraus is inevitable and now is in the net lead once more.
That's incredible. Just absolutely incredible. It seemed like maybe as soon as Chin maybe pressed the limiter within a second of it, that's when I think he may have realized, I'm out of fuel, and that's where that car really rolled down. This is the slope I talked about with Malechka the third coming up because of what happened with Trevor Malone here. Amongst those able to stretch it forward. But still, I think the bigger thing, once you get past the slope prediction, is what happened indeed with the 93.
Matt Taylor's had an issue as well, and it comes through the southern loop, so we do have drama, and there is now a very much a two-horse fight for the lead. Brian Beard, excuse me, sir, that's the wrong way on the track. Maybe hardware failure, I would assume. Somehow, by the way, Andrew Kinsella has done 18 laps and then the formation lap as well. A remarkable opening stint from the power slide driver. We'll see exactly how it will play out. And Joshua Chin has come together with Connor Harrington. The private label teammates come to blows, and Harrington is out of the race. And now side by side for the lead, Malechka to the outside.
What in the world is going on here with private label team hype strategy? Everything's gone up in smoke. Malechka to third now, able to close up the gap, had a 8 to 6/10 rather quicker stop, undercut able to work, and now the whole strategy has gone upside down. You have Beard who...
Oh no!
Beard who's crashed, you have Kinsella who's now crashing. What is going on here?
Well, all the hard work that Andrew Kinsella did cheating to get a car with a massive fuel tank has now come unstuck, unfortunately. And what was I saying about Phillip Island and dramatic races and me having to commentate on them? I don't know what it is, guys. I apologize. It seems to be something about me and this track. That's what happened to Taylor, and that was the start of the crazy, crazy sequence. Brian Beard had the issue in towards Siberia. Honda... And wow, excuse me, he goes for a ride in towards that Miller corner. What happens, though, to the king of chins, and what happens to Connor Harrington?
Looks like he almost carried too much speed.
My goodness.
And wow. Yeah, just once he got off on that grass, Arjuna carried too much speed. He tried to lock it up, and the momentum just carried him right into Harrington.
And that shot... maybe the most painful shot you will see in motorsports. A car pirouetting and sliding in only one direction, sliding into his teammate. Joshua Chin, I think, down on pit lane. Let's see what happened to Kinsella. So side by side with Jason Brophy, something that's happened so many times today. Unfortunately, this time it ends with Kinsella off and into the gravel.
Yeah. What in the world is the main thought? What was that about a calm race?
It's blown up in smoke. And that's maybe a bit of an understatement. Kinsella now in front of Marquez. Yeah, my goodness me. Try and pick apart what's going on in this race right now. Left side of the screen, let's take a look at those tire compounds. Adam Frazier's on the alternates, but the majority have either stayed or switched onto the primary compound of tire for the second stanza of this race. A handful of laps away from getting halfway through. You did wonder if Malechka would come good on the road courses. We saw Van der Sant do that with Phil Kraus at Watkins Glen. Is it the turn for Malechka to do so in the power slide colors?
It's almost fallen into his lap because... oh, what is going on here? Malechka to third, a horrible run coming out of the corner.
Commentator's curse on display. Now, was this intentional, though, I wonder? Now, because remember, Kraus has already gone a lap longer than Malechka. Malechka has got to be thinking about fuel saving and what the strategy is going to look like in the final stint of the race.
absolutely has to be a part of the thought. You just don't expect that move to come in, that's thought, but absolutely has to be the thought of what happened with Chin on the minor Malechka to the third, knowing he'll likely have to save a lap here on this respective pit stop to make it towards the end of this race. So at this point, Malechka third may as well just let Kraus pull him around the racetrack. They have a 7-second buffer over Frazier, who, mind you, might be able to sneak a podium out of this. Or you have Bensi, who might be able to jump in from him.
Or you got Carey, Brophy, Bombers back. I mean, anyone's in the mix out of this third through seventh kind of bubble. Matthias Kraus a little bit further back, but yes, it is very much wide open when it comes to P3 on back. You got Taylor and Kinsella 11th and 12th. Going on the push to pass, as I think Kinsella's trying to work his way forward. Of course, Taylor trying to recover after his mistake as well. There have been plenty of drivers now that JP will have the bit between their teeth and have something to prove in the second half of this race.
And we talked about Matthias Kraus and his good season, Arjuna. Remember the contact we just seen with Brian Beard a while ago? Just over the radio, they indicated cause of incident for the contact. So the 59 going to have a serve with a penalty here.
That's going to drop him down then for the time being. And of course, race control will have to investigate Andrew Kinsella for the abnormally sized fuel tank. Next time by will be halfway through this race. Stint one, well, until the final laps was a bit of a snoozer, and boy, has it kicked off since then. It will calm down momentarily, and I have no doubt ignites at the very end. Kraus, Malechka 1 and 2, of course. Frazier in third. Bensi, Carey 4th and 5th. What a different podium this is to last year, as Matthias Kraus indeed does come down, JP, for that penalty.
Not a surprise there, but to emphasize the pace difference right now, Kraus and Malechka the third are doing right now, they just gained 2 seconds on Frazier in the past lap. Even with some of the saving, these two have now taken the tempo of this race and ran off with it, with the way things are playing out.
Half a second, and I think exactly what Malechka will want to see. So Bombers back in Brophy now, 6th and 7th potentially going to fight. Brophy has switched over to the alternate compound of tyres in this stint of the race. You take a look at those weather conditions. Not really cooled down just yet, JP, but again, it's that cloud cover that I think will have a lot of unknowns for the drivers. Yes, they may expect it will cool down towards the end of this race as we work our way into the later stages of the afternoon, but could cool down in the middle of the race for a handful of laps, and suddenly those alternates will work out a lot better than they would have if there was no cloud cover.
Well, keep in mind that temperature hasn't changed at all. In fact, it just went up just as it was finishing up that point. I think it's partly maybe with the in-sim time. Since it's around 1:30, if it was around 2:30-ish near 3 o'clock, we might be seeing a bit more of a drop-off by this point.
Yeah, no, I do agree indeed. And again, remember, it's 15th of November, which is not the winter in Australia because they're upside down. It becomes the summer instead. Brophy not going to fight Bombers back too hard. I think thinking more about trying to preserve the tyres until the end of the stint. He's got a long way, of course, still left to go. We check in with Guyon and his battle behind him. He's got Larkamp, Kinsella, Taylor stacked up behind, and then a bit of separation to Tyler Graf. Even after all the tumultuousness of the start of the second stint for Andrew Kinsella, he's still in with a chance of a good top 10 finish, you'd have to think.
Back running in 10th, is on a different compound, yes, but has done a good job recovering since driving his car into a tire barrier after a pit stop. It's the question mark of how will things play out with that fuel tank in the post-race inspection. It looks like he's on ground for a spot regardless here.
Well, and the one thing is, how is it going to play out in terms of push-to-passes? Because he's already burning another one. It's down to 4 usages left through the course of this race. Yes, he'll get past Stefan Larkamp and now on the back of Alex Guyon, but how is he going to work the 4-second buffer between 7th and 8th positions with limited push-to-passes and plenty of hungry contenders behind him? Now, seen a handful of more cars have some issues, so straight away we will spool up our RaceSpot TV replay machine. And Joshua Chin, well, I think that might be the end of his day through that tricky penultimate corner, and immediately goes stage left and peels for the lane.
Yeah, just gotten a command from race control for a drive-through penalty. Something to do with that car maybe that's off that distracted him? Who was that? Who was off the track before the curb, though?
Oh, you're right. There was someone else, wasn't there? This might be Matthias Kraus. This is through Luke, who does the same thing as Joshua Chin. And oh my goodness gracious me.
And this is where I think maybe there was a distraction. You see Chin right there, nearly comes up, and then he hits the curb in the next corner. It's almost like you have the thought of the penalty, you have a car coming off the track, and all of that maybe just spooled in for the drive-through and the spiral.
Oh, that was a close one. That's for sure. Kinsella in front of Guyon. We jump on board, though, with Brian Carey as Adam Fraser has been passed by Caleb Bensi as the alternate compound tires on Fraser's car really start to give up the ghost. Carey will use the push to pass and send it down the inside, but bullies his way past Fraser, who is escorted off the track, and then, it's no two bones about it, unsafely rejoins and almost takes out Bombers back for extra measures as well.
When it rains and pours, right? Fraser's tires definitely went off there. I don't know if there was contact per se, but Carey definitely locked up the brakes, and Fraser just had to flick the wheel to the left to avoid slamming into the side of Carey's car.
If there isn't contact, it's as close as it gets, but yeah, I think Bombers back has a bit of right to be aggrieved about that one, and now already dispatches of the number 12 and is up into the top 5 for the Ascari Autosport number 37. So now Bensi versus Carey for a podium spot. Bensi's plus 13, and we've sung his praises many a time. Brian Carey's plus 9 in his car as well, JP. There are plenty of drivers that are moving their ways forward.
Plus 11 for Riggs, plus 10 for Brandt. Those drivers still in the teens, though. It's been an intriguing run. Taylor on the recovery drive. You have Larkamp, indeed, who's done well just outside the top 10 right now amongst those surviving. It's been a crazy one, though, here at Phillip Island.
Crazy feels like an understatement. Yes, it was quiet to begin with, but it's picked up recently. And what craziness that we had in this Thunder Down Under. Still got plenty of drama to come, though, and a sequence of pit stops. Don't go anywhere. The run to the checkered flag here for the HyperX Grand Prix of Phillip Island coming up next on RaceSpot TV.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to Race Spot TV and the Thunder Down Under. We're live for the penultimate round of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series here on Phillip Island. It's the HyperX Grand Prix of Phillip Island, round 21 of 22. In about 20 or so, 16 laps time, we'll crown Philip Kraus our road course champion. However, right now he is focused and locked in a battle with Robert Malechka at the very front of the field. It started as a quiet race, but Justin Prince, this has exploded.
Yeah, you've had the collapse from Joshua Chin from his pit stop sequence. You have the crashes upon crashes for some of the drivers who were in the conversation for the podiums. And now, in turn, you have the strategy race breaking up between Kraus and Malechka III. Malechka III had the lead for a bit, then let Kraus retake the point to try and see if he can force the 19 to burn more gas. This could go any direction still for this race win.
Remember, for Kraus, I think part of why Van der Sant was so successful at Watkins Glen was the ability on pit lane just executes 2, 3, 4% better, but whatever it was enough for Van der Sant to always find a little bit of a margin on pit lane. If Malechka's going to be able to do that after going one lap shorter in the first stint, it will be a very interesting twist around indeed. Across the line, 30 laps now in the books, 16 left to go, and that will signal the flurry of pit stops. It will be Brian Carey and then Caleb Benzie, the first to dive down to pit lane. I think these are the drivers, of course, that JP know. They're staying on the primary compound of tire that will last longer to get to the very end of the race. It's a short stint for Andrew Kinsella, who's back in on the alternates.
Rolfie in the same spot right now, coming in a little bit earlier right now, as to be expected with some of those drivers. Primary is the primary decision-making tire compound here. This should get them to the end fairly simply, as long as they don't overexert themselves. We've seen the majority of the drivers make it around 16 today.
So even though it looks as though it is the alternate compound tire on Caleb Benzie, as you can see on the left side of the screen, confirmation from iRacing itself that they are the primary compound of tires. We'll try and keep you updated, of course, with that across the rest of this pit stop cycle, so you can try and maybe not be as confused as one may be. Some drivers still on the recovery. Matt Taylor is up into 6th, started in 4th. Can he continue the charge forward? Is he going to peel down to pit lane this time? By no, because he's on the push to pass. Has burned through 4 of the 10 allotments. Still has 6 left after this one. But as Brommersbach and Frazier come on in, Taylor wants at least momentarily a spot on the podium. Guyon may not offer too much defense, and the Madworks Motorsports number 8 is forward up to 3rd.
At that point, it's simple. You have the quicker run. You closed it on Guyon. May as well take the opportunity. Now we'll have to see how things play out for the rest of some of these drivers. Bomber's back, 9.2 seconds. Frazier had a fairly quick stop as well.
Bomber's back out behind Matthias Kraus, who does still owe us a pit stop, so have no doubt that we'll see a little bit of something going on there. Now, Rob Malechka is on to lap number 16 of his stint. Would indicate he is due to turn left and go, but no, he'll be able to extend this a little bit further. Likely because, of course, he had swapped around. He does need to use the push to pass to stay close enough within touching distance of your race leader. But a good sign, I think, if you are a fan of Powerslide Motorsports. Not such a good sign if you're a fan of Ascari Autosports, as that is Mitchell Riggs back on track now.
Might have been way too much speed to be carrying through the southern loop that time, but to get back up towards the point. Drivers now having to push the tempo. Not as hard as that, but at this point, the tempo is indeed being picked up.
Jay Brandt has looped it on pit entry, and it is not the easiest one. And this is dangerous as well, as we see Guyon and a handful of other cars work their way towards the pit lane entry, that being Trevor Malone. We've just got a first-hand account of just how tricky that pit lane entry can truly be. And let's jump on board and ride here. Well, he's way too hot into there.
Yeah, it's even before he gets to the cone. You can see just goes off on the grass. That's not a good spell. Tries to slam the brakes, loops around once it locks up, and then he's off for the spin cycle. Here comes Monster third, in for the undercut again.
So remember now, he will switch over to the alternates. They'll fire up quickly, which is important, and now he needs track position and to hope that Phil Krause's stop is not that much shorter. This is where Malechka has got to make sure he hits his marks as well. Up on the jacks, Firestone tires off and on. Tank of fuel going in as well. How quickly can they get him out? It's an 8.4 second stop from the crew. Nice and tidy, but it's almost basically the full service. 28.6 seconds from cone to cone. Malechka now with some clean air. It's the battle now. What can Phil Krause do on his final lap before diving down to pit lane?
Yeah, at this point, may as well come in at the 17, not having a teammate to work off of. You don't want to end up doing a Josh Chin in this part of the race and lose the race such as that. But it is going to be the one lap lighter on the fuel potentially in that case as we take a look at some of the other drivers now grouped together. Fraser has really dropped back after being top 3 earlier.
Yeah, there's plenty of fighting going on right now. Of course, Fraser may still hope that his plan will get him at least in front of Matt Taylor, and it should do so. Taylor trying to nurse alternate tires to the end of this race, despite the fact that, of course, it shows on the car that it is not. You can see left side how those tire stints are playing out right now. Phil Krause will work through for yet another lap. He is on to lap number 18. He is going as long as feasibly possible and trying to make Malechka's life as tough as feasibly possible.
You did see what happened to his teammate, right? That's the end. I understand he's trying to get the lighter car here, save a few tenths in the pit box as well. But if he runs out of gas here, that is a major swing.
And it's so easy, right, as well. Chin must have thought he was without any sort of drama in getting there, but clearly not as simple as it may appear. Have to wait and see on that one, that is for sure. So Phil Krause down through Lukey Heights and down at turn 10 as well. 18 laps on the run, and it's going to be a short 11-lap stint as indeed Phil Krause will dive stage left and roll his way to the safety of pit lane. Now the battle about what can the private label Team Hype crew do versus what Malechka has done with 2 laps now of alternate tires already up to temperature. Of course, Phil Krause hoping for a shorter stop here, JP.
This is his longest stint of the race, believe, actually. Still able to make it in the full pit limiter, so no sputters.
6.3.
And there's the time.
Yes, 6.3 on my timing screen. Updates to 7.7. And now on the short run at a pit lane, JP, it's close. It's not close enough. Phil Krause still leads here at Phillip Island.
And he's going to be able to hold on with the lighter race car for the time being. Now it's the question mark. How does Malechka the third respond here? Both of them on the alternate tires. 12 seconds to play with. Malechka the third has the momentum.
They both have push-to-passes to play with as well. How are they going to choose to cycle this race out? Not just a fight here. Fight's going to, of course, continue to brew up and down through the field. We check in with Alex Guyon, who is behind Jason Brophy, as they fight for what is 8th and 9th positions. I think that's going to be definitely one to watch. Meanwhile, battle for the podium. It's Brian Carey versus Caleb Benty. These, of course, 2 cars, JP, that pitted over now 5 laps ago.
On the primary tires, remember, these drivers having to go with the 16 laps of fuel, so a full tank here, essentially. Still liking this play when it comes to how it's played out for Bensi throughout this race, his progression for the mid-pack. So it's going to be a real intriguing battle for the podium. Real intriguing for this race lead, though, as Malechka the third needs to go.
Phil Krause has a 2 push-to-pass advantage, or I should say had a 2 push-to-pass advantage, because he's tried to burn 1, but you can see he's just been towing Robert Malechka through. Is Malechka close enough, though, to continue to stick with Krause through the twistiest stuff in the middle of the lap? He's already had to break his way back into contention once. Is he going to have to do so again? It's 8 tenths and building into turn number 4.
Yeah, it seems like Krause right now has the upper hand. Good corner exit. Picked up another attempt with the grip.
We ride on board with Jason Brophy as this fight for 8th rides through the southern loop. Guyon on the alternates, Brophy, Kinsella on the primary compound of tire, and then some separation back to Tyler Graf, Stefan Larkamp. We'll try and close on them as well. 10 to go, and I think this is a race now, JP, where mental focus is going to be at its limit.
Yeah, at this point, some of the drivers going to have to be feeling some of the fatigue right now, running 1:15-second lap times much of this race at this point. Now it's going to be the question mark, how does this continue out? Kraus is stretching this big time.
It's done. It's done. Malechka's got 2 more laps on his tires compared to your race leader, and the gap now above 1.8. The draft has been broken, and has Malechka's spirit been broken as well now, because you can see down through the southern loop, the gap over 2 seconds, and Malechka is losing touch and sight of the man not just at the front of the field, but at the front of the championship.
Yeah, Kraus just absolutely taking off, not just with the push to passes, as there's another trouble.
That's Trevor Malone that has had his bit of misfortune down at, I believe, turn number 10. Let's pick this one up. Just way too much speed, overcommits, and, well, then runs himself wide.
Yeah, it looked like the right front tire was locked up all the way as he went off the racetrack there. He had too shallow, locks it up, off he goes.
So what's this going to be on the year for the one, the only, the inevitable Phil Kraus? It's going to be what? Win number 12? Am I remembering this correctly? 12 wins in 21 races?
That appears to be correct. By a sizable margin, the winningest driver this year. Yeah,
there's good years and then there's good years. Not really sure how anyone could have hoped to challenge Phil Kraus, if we're being totally honest. Now remember, we talked all of 2021, JP, about Adam Blocker and the streak of top 5s that he has. Phil Kraus has had a streak of podiums across the entirety of 2022.
Yeah, he's put up numbers even better than Adam Blocker's peak in some circumstances, you can argue, in the past couple of years. We've seen how dominant Blocker was last year. This has been unworldly from Kraus this year.
On board with Brian Carey, and again, apologies for the confusion, even though Brian Carey's shown on the alternates on his car. Left side you can see he's really on the primaries. So is Benzie, so is Bommersbach. These 3 cars have been on track for some of the longest of those around. They were the first to dive to pit lane, and Brian Carey looking to salvage a podium here after qualifying down in 13th spot. Caleb Benzie, though, is up from 16th spot into 3rd in what's been a great year for Benzie in the Team Race First car. And now as Brian Carey burns another push to pass, Benzie has a 4 push to pass advantage with 7 laps to go.
Yeah, this has been absolutely incredible for Benzie, but look at Carey, he's being brave.
And now still, though, pinched to the outside. You saw how much he was able to close, but he needed to be a little bit closer. Will he try another push to pass, though, and a surprise lunge into Miller? He will! Brian Carey back on the button and back on the offense. Benzie will make him shape to the outside, but on the anchors, Brian Carey will send it and commit, will be able to hold it, and with contact, Benzie will hold to 3rd. However, race control may look at that one, because if there's no contact, Brian Carey might hold the inside into turn number 6.
Yeah, that was a little bit naughty on the extra contact there. Carey a little bit over the track now. Now it's the question, how does Carey respond?
So plenty of time for the move to happen if it is going to happen. There's damage on either side. I think that's one of the major questions. Grab a look at the replay, though, as Phil Kraus now 5 seconds clear of Robert Malechka, by the way. Like we said, as soon as he had cleared, he had gone. I don't really know, watching from there, to be completely fair, JP.
You see in our angle here, you see from far above, just trying to hug the inside as he came up on the corner. It goes up into the side pod. It was a bit of a tight squeeze, but still,
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get a camera angle that's going to really help us figure that one out. The benefit of being in race control, of course, though, in this virtual world, JP, is you can move your cameras around and do whatever you want to get infinite angles of any incident.
Yeah, that's still either way. I think might heat up in another lap or two. Speaking of things heating up, Kinsella still pushing ahead. Now he wants to pressurize the 08 machine, who's on the alternates.
See again on the left side of the screen the status of the tires. 2 at the front on the alternates, but Plenty had run the primary alternate compound that maybe I was wondering. There's been plenty of variance as well, and that's why we love these sort of races. Down the hill, Kinsella not going to look for it, but again, it's Kinsella and Brophy that find themselves locked in battle. Front of the field, Phil Kraus, say goodbye. 6 seconds, the margin to Malechka, and, well, you remember last year, he was still searching for his first victory when he came to Phillip Island, if I remember correctly here, JP. But Phil Kraus has turned it around with a monster run here today.
Yeah, this final stint, he's been essentially putting up qualifying laps. How about a full second quicker than his normal tempo, as there goes Taylor.
Yeah, and Guyon has been passed by not just Kinsella, but by Brophy as well, so his alternate tires very much past their sell-by date, as, yeah, Matt Taylor, it's not exactly the line that you're meant to run. Jump on board. You can see he had the push to pass, had plenty of speed, and it was the curb on the inside that hooked him around.
Yep, just stabilized him and sent him off into the grass. Brophy a little bit slippy-slidey in the draft to Kinsella.
Yeah, now Kinsella 7/10 clear. We'll try and hold on with just a handful of laps to go. Check in with that battle for the podium. Race control have determined the contact as no further action, JP. So if Carey wants the podium, he's got 3 laps or so to get it done. He's got to get it done out on track.
Yeah, Carey struggling a little bit to close up fully, potentially with that push to pass differential right now. At this point, Carey might have to do another brave move. He made it work nearly once. Can he do it again?
Our timing tower lit up like a Christmas tree. So many drivers using push to passes in these closing stages. They're safe on fuel and they know they're trying to survive and hold on to the positions that they've got right now. So Kinsella, Brophy, Guyon, Graf, 7th through 10th, with then Taylor now dropping to 11th. They're still in front of Stefan Larkamp in the Alcatech NHR Esports number 62 machine. Of the top 10, only 4 of them have finished this race off on the alternate red compound of tire. You can see the track temperature has not dropped off maybe that significantly, JP. Only 3 degrees Celsius really has changed since the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, remember, it did go up a little bit for a couple moments, but now these clouds starting to really factor in as we approach that 2 p.m. in sim time. Now it's the matter of, will this play out the way someone like Guyon may hope with some of the alternates we talked about? It hasn't, so to speak, though, because his times are 1 second slower than Kinsella and Brophy right now.
Yeah, and Phil Kraus, by the way, is just having fun at the front of the field at this point. Only 2 drivers have dipped down, or 3 drivers, excuse me, a handful have dipped into the 113s. Phil Kraus, not even the fastest lap of them all, with his 1:13.319. Incredible. Incredible pace shown by some out there on the track. Bit of a lockup there from Kraus, but he'll come around, he'll take 2 to go, and he'll look to just hold on at the very front of the field. Josh Chin and Matt Houston will fight as Chin gets his way forward into 20th. Matt Taylor now and Tyler Graf going side by side, but I think Jay Branton has had a terminal issue and his race comes to a close with the toe to pit lane in the closing stages.
Yeah, he is lucky not to have collected other cars, because watch the aftermath of this. He's having the issue similar to what we've seen before. Hits the tire barrier, is in the middle of the racetrack, just about gets hit by Malone.
Yeah, it doesn't get much closer than that. Another look at that hellacious bit of contact, and then ride with Malone, who, yeah, change of underwear ordered to the 69, please.
And It's still a spot, but it's not how you expect it.
You take them as you can, I guess? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I guess you do. 2 laps to go through the field then. I don't think we are going to see any battles inside the top 10 right now, though, except for Graf, Taylor, and Larkamp, because it has stretched out a little bit more. And as we jump on board with Brian Carey, as they work their way into Lukey Heights in this battle for the podium, you can see 8/10 the margin. Carey just not close enough.
Yeah, he just cannot close up that gap. But for Philip Kraus, it has been domination station this final stint.
Winds around to begin the final trip around Phillip Island. 1 lap to go for yet another victory in a historic season for the one and only Philip Kraus. Carey's trying, he's on the push to pass, but as you can see, well out of lunge range, even a move that those down under, like Daniel Ricciardo, would be proud of. See if he can try it maybe, though, into turn 4. Look how much he sent it into the corner. He's going to give his all, that's for sure.
Yeah, if anything, though, that was a little bit too hard on the send. That might have cost him any final chance at a send unless there's a mistake from Bensi.
Yeah,
and now he makes another.
Yeah, now he's going to have to just try and hold on to 4th. But at the very least, Brian Carey will be able to answer the question, did you try your hardest, JP? The answer is yes.
Still a solid run for Carey after what's been up and down his year in the 79 on the road courses.
At the front of the field, though, it has been a masterclass in race management from Philip Kraus. He'll use push-to-passes to the line because it doesn't matter. Phil Kraus can do what he wants and can win when he wants. It's 12 wins in 2022. Phil Kraus is in HyperX victory lane once more to round out the road course season and to clinch the road course championship. It'll be Robert Malechka and then Caleb Bensi through the rest of the podium. Brian Carey and Kite Bommersbach the rest of the top 5. A quiet start to the race, JP. Nothing but quiet after the first round of pit stops.
Yeah, attrition building up from some of the major contenders. Penalties after penalties building up in some of the cases. Some of the recovery drives have been pretty spectacular for this one. But in the end, it's Philip Kraus building a house at Phillip Island.
We wait for the final cars to come across the line. 25 took to the green. 21 will see the checkered flag, all on the leading lap as well, which is very nice to see. There's Trev Malone. We wait for Josh Chin from the pole position. He'll be undoubtedly frustrated with his day, Matt Houston, and then John Baderfer having a drag race to the line. Baderfer in front by 1/10 of a second at the very end, but very much a roller coaster for all those involved. So we grab a look at your SimRace 24/7 unofficial race results, 46 laps in, and well, it's another victory for Philip Kraus, and starting on the front row yet again, or rather for the first time, not crucial to success. Robert Malechka grabbed second in the power slide ignition, number 91. Caleb Bensi drove his way through the field to grab the third and final step on the podium. It's Brian Carey and Kite Bommersbach making up the rest of the top 5, with Adam Frazier, Andrew Kinsella, Jason Brophy, and then Alex Guyon and Tyler Graf the rest of the top 10. Kinsella and Guyon 7 and 6 spots gained respectively. Kinsella one of those that had to fight back from a self-inflicted mistake. Matt Taylor had a handful of those. He's in 11th in the MadWorks Motorsports number 8, but in front of the Alcantech NHR Esports entry of Stefan Larkamp, Bradley Sexton, Mitchell Riggs, and Andrew Marquez through 15th. Matthias Kraus, a penalty. Form coming unstuck potentially in the Crescent Motorsports 59, but one race still to go to turn that one around here in 2022. Trevor Malone, Josh Chin, 17th and 18th. Baderfer just in front of Matt Houston, and our final finisher will be in 21st position, Luke Daniels in the number 40. It'll be James Brandt, Connor Harrington, the first 2 of our retirees, Harrington as well as Beard getting retired on plus 29 on the marker. Lionel Kalisto rounds out the field of 25 that took to the green flag. Fastest lap does go, by the way, to John Baderfer, who at least shows the pace that we know that he's got here on the road courses. Not exactly sure how HyperX Private Label Team Hype was celebrating in HyperX Victory Lane. Not sure those pictures are safe for broadcast. So instead, let's head straight to our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. And as we wait for the opportunity to chat with our podium sitters, JP, another trip to Phillip Island, and another crazy trip to Phillip Island.
Yeah, it was a wild one tonight, to say the very least. But in the end, it almost felt like a last driver standing in terms of the strategy. Kraus and Malechka third, but Kraus, he just, once he got out with the strong pit stop, just had a rocket ship tonight.
Yeah, and it was all about strategy in some ways as well. And we'll get the chance to chat with them. Slightly different strategy to what we had last year. Not really anyone trying the opportunity to make a 3-stop race here, but I think that was to be expected even with what is a relatively short travel time down the entirety of the pit lane. Still waiting for Private Label Team Hype driver to come and join us, JP, so instead let's look forward very quickly. Season finale, double points, a special Sunday, 4 p.m. start time. It's the Championship Showdown at Auto Club, and we cannot wait for that one. A Lionheart tradition, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think so, absolutely. It's going to be intriguing which drivers find the way towards the front, how the racing itself plays out. For those who watch the Speedway action with the DW12, for reference, 3 wide for the battle for the race win. How will things play out in the IR18? With major question to see who closes out the year strong in the Triple Crown race.
Well, I tell you what, we've given Phil Kraus enough of an opportunity, so instead we're going to go in reverse order, and Justin Prince is standing by with Caleb Bensi on the 3rd step of the podium.
Yes, indeed, Caleb Bensi, you charged up from 16th to 3rd. First of all, how's your reaction to that? Caleb Bensi, do you have a copy?
We'll try that one maybe in a few moments' time. We'll bring in Robert Malechka and see if we got a copy with him. Rob, do you hear us?
Hi, Arjuna.
Hello, Mr. Malechka. Qualified on the outside of the front row and then had to fight against Joshua Chin and Phil Kraus for a while before it was just you and Phil Kraus. How did it feel to be out there at the front of the field on a road course?
Felt pretty good. I kind of choked my Q run. I probably had another 2, maybe 3 tenths in it. I lost about 2 tenths in turn 4, I think it is. I don't know what it is. But kind of just riding behind Chin and Phil there for most of the run, saving fuel, but not enough because they were able to get an extra lap and also, or maybe 2 laps. And really that was the difference at the end. I knew once Phil went 2 laps, there's really no point in racing him because I had slim to none shot at winning that race, so I kind of just locked in, put some decent laps in, and got a P2.
In terms of the strategy for you, we did see you intentionally, I think, lift out of the throttle to try and do some fuel saving. Can you confirm that was the plan?
Oh yeah. I knew Phil was just going to sit behind me, so I'm like, I need to get this extra lap to at least have a chance, and so I lifted 50% out of the throttle out of turn 2, I think it was, and just let Phil lead because I needed that extra lap to even have a shot, but in the end it didn't really matter.
How did it play in terms of the 2 tire compounds? Of course, I think I was kind of thinking primary, alternate, which is what you did, but we saw a bevy of strategies, and plenty of the strategies worked out as well.
Yeah, it was, in my opinion, I think Chin kind of dictated what we all went, at least in the front, because if he goes red, and then we're going to want to keep up with him and be able to save fuel and just kind of right behind him. But with Chin going black, it kind of just a simple thing to do, go black and just kind of being the draft train for the race.
We'll let you go. Congrats on a great run on the road course, and you're starting to prove that you can turn right, not just left.
Yeah, not bad, I guess. Sure.
Robert Malechka, 2nd step of the podium, but a fight with Phil Kraus to the very end. It's a 12th win of the year for Phil, and to do it on Phil Island, maybe we shouldn't be surprised that you clinched the road course championship here today, Phil.
Yeah, I needed some real estate on Phillip Island, but Yeah, all in all, it was an interesting race. Obviously, a big shame that Josh had his off because I know he collected Connor in it as well. So I'm sure y'all got a bit of a laugh out of that. But yeah, it's nice to lock up the road championship with a dub, especially at the island, like you said.
I mean, it's the first time that we haven't had the drivers on the front row win this race. So, starting back in third, what was your plan in that first stanza? Of course, started quite well, jumping past Rob before you even got into turn number 1.
Yeah, most of the first stint and second stint really was just a bit of a fuel save because I knew I didn't really have much pace on the reds, and it showed like those last few laps they were sliding all over the place, and Rob was struggling a lot with them as well. But yeah, it was just a lot of fuel saving in the first few stints. That's how Rob got by me at the start of the second because I just sat behind him a little bit and saved fuel, and then I think he let me back by. I'm not sure. I think he made a bit of a mistake as well, but. Yeah, after that, kind of got to set a few hot laps on the reds, and that was fun. I don't know if I beat Chin's quickest lap. I didn't look.
I think you did, but you didn't get the fastest lap because that instead went to John Baderfer, who decided to have some fun of his own.
Oh, nice.
It was such a crazy race that I forgot to mention. Congratulations, by the way, on your Open Wheels 500 pole position this past weekend. What's your expectations for this Saturday, though, as you get ready to try and fight for 500 miles around the new scan of Indianapolis?
Honestly, Arjuna, my expectations haven't really changed at all since I talked to you on pole day for Open Wheels. Yeah, it's going to be difficult because I'm one car against a sea of other teams, at least for the opening bits of the race. So we'll have to see what happens, see how that goes, and just hope for the best. See what happens.
We'll see what happens, indeed. Congratulations on another win, Phil, and we'll be around on December 11th to crown you a champion at Auto Club.
Cheers, Arjuna.
Phil Kraus, another dominant victory for him. And, well, I think we do have Caleb Bency. He's standing by with JP once again.
Yes, indeed, Caleb Bency going from 16th to 3rd tonight. How are you feeling?
Man, pretty shocked, honestly. First of all, sorry initially. These HyperX headphones are incredible, obviously. But it helps when you don't pull the microphone out of the socket when you try to adjust it. So, but yeah, it was an incredible race. I mean, obviously, probably see qualifying did not go well at all. Just did not find the front grip at all on a 1 or 2 lap run. So, really struggled there. And from there, just made the effort to keep it on track. Try to put in basically qualifying laps from there on out because the blacks could kind of handle that. And then just baby the reds as much as you can because those were definitely a handful.
Seemed to be that way. How would you describe your fight with Brian Carey?
It was great. Unfortunately the little graphics glitch sometimes. I thought he was on reds on that final stint, so I was just trying to prolong, waiting for him to fall off. So I wasn't like pushing too hard early. But ultimately he was on the blacks, so he just never really went away, which made it pretty interesting. I was actually kind of tight on fuel. Kind of to what I actually wanted. I'm not really sure why. So I was pretty hesitant to use the push to pass, and it almost bit me a couple times. But yeah, I mean, it was a good battle with him. We haven't really raced each other much, I feel like, but from what we have, is always clean. And so yeah, we had some pretty close side-by-side action there, but kept it clean and glad to come out on top there.
Well, congratulations to the hard charge throughout the night tonight. A podium on a road course.
Great to chat with all our drivers in our HyperX post-race show. We'll talk once more very quickly, JP, about that championship showdown. December the 11th. It's a special Sunday start time of 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific. 500 miles, high speeds, high stakes, and high thrills.
It should be an exciting one to close out the campaign. We talked a bit about the Speedway side. I think when it comes to the IndyCar side, it should put on an absolute dramatic show as well, especially when it comes to seeing which drivers come up with the best strategies, which drivers are able to execute fully, which drivers can stay out of the big ones.
And of course, we've already had one of our championship showdowns, but that's all that we've got left to do across of 3 Lionheart competitions. 2 more champions left to crown. Matt Taylor this past Monday became your Lionheart Speedway Series champion. Who will crown themselves the Lionheart Retro Series champion? Who will crown themselves the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series champion? Well, we know the answer to that final question. It's just time for the formalities. It will be the Gomez Sim Industries Race for the Championship presented by JewersCandy.com. A long wait until the 11th of December, but join us on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern to crown Phil Kraus your 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series champion. For now, though, it is time to bid you farewell. The next time we'll see you will be on the left coast of the USA. For everyone behind the scenes at RaceSpot TV, for Justin Prince and myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for your company once more here. Just one more blast to go through, and it will be a high-speed thriller that you do not want to miss. For now, though, we congratulate the inevitable Philip Kraus, victorious once again.